Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaleia and this is another episode of my knitting podcast. It's been quite a while since I last filmed an episode. I've actually tried to film this multiple times and over the past few weeks and it just hasn't been all that good. So I'm redoing it again today and I have a lot to share, which I'm really excited about. I will follow a normal knitting podcast format. I'll share my finished objects, whips, and then I have one acquisition, sort of. A few life updates. I've just gone back to school. I'm in Japan and so it's a little bit hot still and a little bit rainy, which is a little unfortunate, but I'm managing, I think. So yeah, I've just had a lot of time to knit before the school year starts, or not school year, but my second semester starts, and I'm excited to share that. So yeah, let's get started. I guess before that I'll talk about what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Petit knit Dagmar jacket, which I knit in drops Lima and Alpakka Folgetrad. I knit this quite a while ago. I think it's in one of the videos where it's in the thumbnail. I love it. I think the color is great, especially with this like pink dress. I think it looks really nice. So yeah, if you want to hear me talk about it more, because I kind of forget most of the specs of it, it'll be in that video. Let's get started with finished objects. The first finished object I have is my Shoreline Tee by Ozetta. It is literally like the exact same color as my dress, which is kind of funny, but it is a pattern by Ozetta and I knit it. I have this written down actually because I knew I was gonna forget. It is the Kraeo Twisted Sister fingering weight yarn in the color Pearl, which I purchased at Flock a few months ago now, I think. And it's held together with lace silk by Kinnohitsuji, which is a Kyoto-based yarn brand. It's a DK weight pattern. It's a top-down saddle shoulder construction and on 4mm needles. I used, I think as well, 3.5 for the ribbing, or maybe 3, I can't remember, but you go a size down for the ribbing on the top part. Oh, I also did some modifications. I took one repeat out of the sleeve so it's a little bit shorter. I personally like the sleeves of my shirts to be on the shorter side. I don't really like it when it's really long. It just feels kind of awkward on my body, I feel like. So, and I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't have enough yarn anyway, so it just made sense for me to take one repeat out of the sleeves and then just add the extra yarn to the body. And I barely had enough yarn for that anyway, so it ended up being perfect, I think. I have this many repeats on the bottom. I'm not really sure how long it was actually supposed to be. I just kind of knit until I didn't have any more yarn left. I will say the pattern is super well designed and it's super easy to follow. It has a lot of sizes, which is really nice. Yeah, the only trouble that I had, I think this just goes for every saddle shoulder construction, and I've had this problem with, you know, other saddle shoulders, but there's so many ends and breaking yarn and restarting again, which I find a little bit annoying, but I mean, there's obviously nothing you can really do about it, and I think it's worth the finished product, so I don't really mind. But yeah, overall the fit is really great. The yarn itself, I think held together, has a very soft plush feeling. However, I do find that it's already pilling and I really haven't worn it much. I don't know if you can see it, but it is pilling a little bit, which is, I mean, obviously with wear it's kind of to be expected. I haven't been able to wear it much because it's just so hot outside, and since it is wool, it's not exactly the most summer friendly top. I think I'll find myself pairing it under long sleeves or under, you know, a jacket. I think would look really nice as an undershirt. But yeah, I haven't gotten the chance to wear it quite yet. But when I have tried it on, it has fit really well and I'm really enjoying it. Another thing I will say is that to be careful with the bind off on this, the neckline, because I tend to bind off pretty tight and it just barely fits over my neck. So maybe make sure you're not binding off extremely tight if that's something you usually do, because you may not be able to fit it over your neck, which is not a good thing, or head. So just be a little careful. But other than that, I don't think there's anything I really would change except for the modification I made on the sleeve. And I'm really loving the double knitted part right before the ribbing. I think it looks just so clean and nice, and I'd definitely be tempted to add that to other patterns that I do if it's not even in there. I think it just adds, I don't know, I've never done it before and I think it looks really professional. So that was the Shoreline Tee. The next top that I have is the lined loop top by Otherloops. It's a top-down tank top as well, and I also didn't have this cast on in the last episode. It is knit in Onling number 4, which is a fingering weight organic wool, I believe. I'll put the colors down below, but it's just a striped tank top. It's on 3mm needles. I didn't really make any modifications besides I ran out of yarn, so I just bound off when I had no more yarn left. But one thing I really do like the fit of this tank top. I find it fits my body really well. I made it in a size small, and I think it's supposed to be knit on a light fingering weight, and this is fingering weight, so I think it's like a little bit denser fabric or thicker fabric than it originally is supposed to be, but I find that I think I like that better. It looks super neat, and I was a little bit worried at the beginning of the bind off because in the pattern it says to do just a regular bind off and not like a, what do they call it, like the stretchy bind off, and I was worried that it just like wouldn't fit over my head or something, because when I was making the square neck camisole, I originally did it bind off regularly and it just didn't fit over my head or my shoulders, I think. So I was a little bit worried, but I think because that one has a lot more negative ease than this one, it worked out much better. And I didn't add any waist shaping. I know people have modified it on their own to add that, but I decided not to, and I really like the way that fits. I also really quite like the neckline, which has this double knit, like 4 rows of double knit and then bind off. And I was also worried that I was binding off too tight and it wasn't going to fit over my head, but it fits really well over my head. And I think it adds a little bit of a, not raised, but I think it just looks really nice and finished, as well as the I-cord edging. I've never done regular I-cord edging. I've done double knitted edging, but I really like the way this looks, and it was a lot easier than doing double knitting, so I definitely try that again. Overall, I think the pattern is pretty good. I'd say for some reason, for me personally, I find Otherloops patterns to be a little bit confusing. I don't know if it's just a me problem, but I find the instructions to be a little bit harder to follow than, say, Petit knit or Ozetta, for example. I'm not sure if it's like a translation error or maybe it's just not computing in my brain and it works for other people's train of thoughts better, but just a little note, if I don't exactly think they're as beginner friendly as some other patterns, but nonetheless I got it finished, so it's all good. It does have a little bit of a crease in the middle because it was folded up, but maybe I'll fold it the other way. Maybe the crease will go away. But I did also receive a gift card from Onling, and I used it on this because I won. They were doing like an Instagram competition or something of, it was like a summer postcard competition, and I won. So I got a gift card for free, and I picked up this yarn with it. So that was my second finished object. Super happy with this, and I'll definitely be wearing this as it is still hot outside, and I think it'll get good use. Now the next finished object I have is kind of boring, not gonna lie. Like, I feel like it's not that exciting. I talked about this last episode as well. It's just a waffle sock that I freehanded. It's knit in Lana Grossa cool wool, I believe, the fingering weight. It's just got 2x2 rib, the waffle stitch, a short row heel, and then just regular wedge toe. I've never done a short row heel before, but I actually really quite like the fit of it. It might actually be better than a heel flapping gusset for me, but maybe I'm just not used to it yet. But I think that knitting a heel flapping gusset is easier for me, or more mindless, but maybe I just haven't practiced enough. So I'll need to get the other sock done. Honestly, really not much to say. I really like the color. I think it goes well. Ooh, I feel like it would go well with this, maybe. I don't know. They're very gray toned colors, but there's a sock. Hopefully the other one will get done very soon. I kind of doubt that because I finished this a few weeks back, but anyways. Now on to another finished object, actually, which was supposed to be a whip, but I finished it last night and I was like, oh, I really want to block it. It's a mitten. It's the Kitten Catch Mittens by Handmade by Florence, and it's a fingering weight mitten pattern, and I'm using BC garn, I think, Shetland. I have it here somewhere. It's in my little project bag that I sewed. There are these 2 balls. I actually hand wound these, which is pretty crazy for me, but there are these 2 colors. One is this dark brownish color, and then this one's a cream color, which is often a color palette I use, and I feel like I should venture out. But alas, I'm using brown and cream again. But this is what they look like. It has a Latvian mitten, or Latvian braids with corrugated rib, more Latvian braids, these kitten patterns on the front. Then on the back, it has a thumb gusset and this fish, and the same pattern on the back. And then there, I'll put it on for you. They are so cute. Oh my gosh. I love the fit. I think the little fish is really cute. If you like wave your thumb around, like, that's adorable. I really like this glove as a very, like, a base pattern for fingering weight wool. I think it's really nice, just with the thumb gusset, the way the stitches are offset is really great. It's like the scantier pattern, just fingering weight, if that makes sense. I think it looks really cute. I have yet to make the other one. The pattern has been pretty clear so far. I did have a little bit of trouble with the thumb when you place the stitches held for the thumb back on. I think my mind always thinks about beginning of round on this side, like going from left to right, like the very left is always the beginning of round, but it actually starts on the other side for beginning of round for the thumb, if that makes sense. So it just kind of took a little bit of rereading and thinking about it again. So that was a little bit difficult to understand, but I don't think it's that major of an issue. I eventually got it, and I'm really enjoying it. I think they look great. I will say about this yarn, it is very soft, actually, because even though it's like a Shetland type woolly wool, the yarn breaks kind of badly. I noticed some of the parts were really, really thin, and then I'd pull really hard, and then it would just snap. And then the major problem with that was that I couldn't felt it back together, which I found really weird. Like, I'd try, and it just would, like, pull apart again. Maybe I was being too lazy with the felting and not, like, you know, untangling the fibers enough. But usually I don't need to do it that much, and it will felt anyways, and it just wasn't working. So I had to add new yarn and, you know, go through that whole process. And it was kind of frustrating when the top part, I was literally finishing it, and like sewing through all the stitches, and then I pulled and it just like snapped like 1 centimeter off there. So I had to, all I did was like try to weave that end in, and then I took another piece of yarn and then I went through it again and like tied a knot and wove in those ends as well. But that was kind of annoying. But yeah, other than that, I really like this yarn. But I will say, I'll talk about the next yarn for my other mitten, but I like that yarn much more, so I think next time I'll try that. I got this yarn actually at Totti, T-O-T-T-I. It's a new yarn store in Nutta, so if you're ever visiting the Nutta area, I would totally recommend. They have a quite affordable yarn, I guess. I mean, with the like exchange rate for at least US, it's really good. They have a bunch of hand-dyed sock yarns, hand-dyed yarns in general, and then they have the, I think it's BC Garn, the Shetland, which is like, I think a few dollars cheaper than it is in the US, so I would totally recommend. Super cute, really nice area if you're looking to go. Very quiet. I'd recommend if you're out there. So yeah, there's that mitten. Hopefully I will be getting the other one done soon. I think I will. I only knitted this in like a few days since the pattern like just released, I believe. I was really excited about more mittens, so there's that. Now on to another whip. It's basically like my, what do you call it, like piece de resistance, my I don't know, but it's my Latvian mitten. Yes, it's back again and in a more finished state. It looks like this. It's like super stiff, and it's a Code of Mittens pattern knit on 1.5 millimeter needles using Harrisville Shetland. And yeah, it's just a picot edge on the bottom, and it's got three color work, and then you just like take stitches off for the thumb gusset, and or not thumb gusset, I guess it's just the thumb. I'll put it on as well. This is what it looks like. Ooh, I love it so much. Isn't that so cool? I love the design and pattern a lot. I think it looks really, really cool. I've had a lot of fun making this. It has hurt my hands a little bit because the needles are so small. Like, if you look at this, the needles, because they're so thin and the stitches are so tight, especially I think I knit pretty tight, the needles are like bent. I mean, you can bend them back in shape, so I can just do that right now, but I think they'll kind of eternally be bent, and I'm kind of okay with that. But yeah, it's been quite the process. It's been fun learning how to do three color color work. I don't think it's as hard as I initially thought. I did explain this in my last episode as well, but I find that to do these sort of three color works, I like to hold the two contrast colors, the red and the like creamish, on my left hand, so like I would continentally. Then I take the dark color, which is my background color, and I hold it English style. So that's how it's been going, and I think it makes the colors pop out perfectly and the details look really nice. One thing I will say is I had a few troubles, which I will explain with the pattern. I mean, the pattern is very vague. It just gives you the chart and a few instructions like cast on this many stitches, pick up this many stitches for the thumb. And okay, one problem I had was that the picture that Code of Mittens used for like the example has this sort of edging on the mitten, so it's got the background color doing the decreases, but in the pattern it has this contrast color doing the decreases. And so I started to do it and I was like, this is not, I did not like it when it was the white as a border. I liked it when the white was on the side better. So I had to modify that a little bit and just, you know, not do that. But it was just a little bit interesting how the picture was a little bit different than the pattern, but you know, alas, it's not that big of a deal. Another thing I will say is that the thumb was a little bit of a struggle, especially picking up the stitches. It was so hard because the stitches are so dense and tight. I just like could not pick it up. It was so difficult and it hurt my hands really badly, but you know, I got there. And then my stitches counts were off because the like square, like there's a little square triangle thing that they put to do the thumb. It's good for when you're trying to take off the stitches for when you're knitting the main part of the hand, but then actually doing the thumb, you have to add extra stitches and then go outside of the little like square thing that they give you. So it just takes a little bit of a brain power to maybe wrap your hand around, or maybe I'm just stupid. That's also a possibility, but I did figure it out in the end, and I just added a few yarn overs here and there, and you really can't tell because the stitches are just that dense. It really doesn't matter. So in that way, this is a pretty forgiving project a little bit. One thing that I'm also a little bit sad about is that this part flares out quite a bit, and I really don't like that. But I don't have 1.25 millimeter needles, and I'm not willing to do that because that just sounds terrible. 1.25 millimeter needles. I would need DPNs and they would certainly break, and casting on DPNs is just not for me. So there we have my wonderful, beautiful Latvian mitten. I find it interesting though how the red here, they're all the same red, but it appears so much darker than the flowers, which is kind of cool. It's like adding another shade of red without having to do anything. I don't know. That's pretty cool. So yeah, there's that. Oh, and I'll show you the yarn. This is the Harrisville Shetland. Comparing this to the other Shetland, I'd say the Harrisville Shetland is much better. I haven't had a single problem where there's been thinning out. It feels much sturdier. I will definitely gravitate towards this yarn in the future. I don't think there's as many colors, but I mainly use simple colors anyway, so I don't really mind only having a few colors. But yeah, I really enjoy this yarn, and it's making a mess on my floor because I dropped it. Now lastly, I have one last acquisition, or one last whip, which is in this other project bag I made. And it's the yucca Humuhumu sock, which I'm redoing. Now I did one sock and it just did not turn out well. I think in my second to last episode I was talking about it, and I was trying to convince myself actively that it does fit over my foot and it isn't too small, but I've realized it is way too small. It's such a struggle to put over my foot. I don't know how anyone gets it over their feet, or how did they make it? I have no idea. So what I've done, and I'm honestly considering frogging this and just using the yarn for something else because I'm kind of over it. Like, I don't really have any motivation to do it, but I don't know. We'll see. I added this one extra cable to make the stitch count like 70 stitches instead of, what was it? I think like 60 something. Or was it like 59? It's really small. And I thought since it was 2.5 millimeter needles, a little bit of a thicker yarn, I could get away with it, and it still doesn't fit over my feet. I don't know if my feet are like that much chunkier than other people's feet, but yeah, I don't know, it didn't work out. So debating whether to just frog this completely or just keep going. I haven't worked on this in a while, hence the stitch holder, and I'm also using the same needles for my mittens, but yeah, that's the only problem I've had with that. And I don't know, there's other sock patterns I think I'd rather work on. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I really want to do like a really complicated sock, and then I get a really complicated sock pen, and then I get kind of sick of it like halfway through and it becomes kind of a chore. But yeah, we'll see what happens, but I still have it here anyways. The last thing I'll talk about is another acquisition I've gotten. It's in this bag. It is the Onling number 10 silk mohair, and the Onling number 4, again the same fingering weight wool, merino wool. And I'm gonna make the peacock cardigan. I think one is definitely warmer than the other, but I think together it might be fine. The peacock cardigan, I believe, is like a knitting for all of merino and mohair type of cardigan, and I've been eyeing it for a while, and I think it would look really good with these colors. I did knit up a swatch, and then I accidentally used the yarn from my tank top with that mohair, and I was like, why is it so weird looking? Yeah, I just chose the wrong yarn. So I know I've hit gauge, and I'm just gonna go with it, and I'll hopefully make that soon. I do want to finish some other projects that I have going, like the Northern Augustans number 7 that I haven't worked on at all before I start that. But you know, sometimes I get a little, you know, I want to just cast things on, but I'll hold myself to it. I'll hold myself accountable to finish some of my whips. Please hold me to that. But anyways, I think that's about it for this episode and everything I have to share. Hopefully it won't be as long before I make another episode, but you never know. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.